I am honored to have as my guest on Track and Field Legends today a young man who I've known for a long time. I've interviewed him several times, and he is none other than track and field legend, track and field legend Greg Foster. Greg, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Alpheus. I am doing fine. I had a good night's rest and just up and about, just kind of getting the day started.
Well, please tell us about your start in sports, not just track and field, your start in
Oh,
sports.
well, excuse me. My start didn't actually. I didn't start competing in anything organized until I was probably in high school, 14 years old. I ran a lot when I was younger, and we used to race each other, of course, up and down the street and things like things of that nature. But officially, and under any organization or organized sports, I didn't start till I got in high school, and I went out for football, American football, and it went pretty okay the first year. I was a freshman, so I played with the freshman team. So I was only 14 years old, but we didn't have much of a quarterback, and I played wide receiver. So I'd run, and the ball would never get to me because it dropped 20, 30 yards behind me. So about halfway through the season, I got tired of that, decided I'm done with this. So anyway, I decided to go out for basketball when basketball season came around, and thinking I'm going to be the next great basketball player, but that didn't work out because I didn't make the team. So a friend of mine actually talked me into going out for track and field. I mean, for a week, I kept telling him, no, I'm not going out for track and field. And then finally I went out, and that's when my track career began. I just kind of fell in love with it right away. I didn't start hurdling right away. Of course, I was a sprinter, like most guys think they're fast. But so I started off as a sprinter, and maybe about a month into the season, I started to try hurdles. And then got to looking around. I saw at the sprinting line, where the sprinters were, there were 30 kids, but where the hurdlers were, there were only a couple. I'm like, I'm going over here because I got less competition over here. So I went over there and started hurdling and fell in love with it right away, and just kind of worked at it. And my coach, worked with me a lot, and just got better and better. So I stayed with it.
Well, what university did you attend? And tell
I
us
attended,
what you did at the university.
I attended UCLA, which is the only school I ever really wanted to go to was UCLA. I don't know why. I think it's because I always saw them on television for basketball mainly, but I always wanted to go to UCLA. And living in Chicago, that was a far-fetched dream because it's so far away from home. And UCLA did not even recruit me, to be honest. My high school coach actually called them and informed them that they had a kid here that's pretty good that wants to come to your school. So they finally called me, and I went out for a visit. But anyway, oh gosh, at UCLA I ran the 100, the 200, 4x1 hurdles, 100-meter hurdles, 110 hurdles, and occasionally the 4x4. I didn't like the 4x4 very much at all. Just too far for me. Back then it was called the 400-meter run, and then it became the 400-meter dash, and then it became just the 400. When it became just the 400, that means it's just all out race, and I'm not doing that. So not for that distance.
So at UCLA, did you have the legendary coach coaching you at
Well, I had
UCLA?
Coach Jim Bush. Coach Jim Bush was my coach, and at the time,
Jim Bush, yes.
definitely legendary. They had won so many. Back then he was big on dual competitions, which we had a lot of against schools like USC, Tennessee, Oregon. So we ran a lot of dual meets against just one-on-one universities. And he was very big on that, and we loved it because our USC UCLA dual meet was one of the biggest meets in the country during that time. I mean, we'd have 15,000 people in the stands watching just two colleges go against each other, and it was quite a bit of fun and just you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we had world records broken. We had guys like James Sanford and Quincy Edwards running, and James Jukes and guys like that, and it was just a great competition. I loved it.
Well, when was your first national team?
Oh, my first national team. I want to say it must have been the World Cup, maybe. I think it was a World Cup. I think it was the first national team. Yeah.
Was that
That's
the first World Cup, or that was the World
Yes, the
Cup
first World
in
Cup, very first
Montreal?
World Cup. Yep. Yep.
And that was in Germany,
Yes. Uh-huh. I'm trying to
Dusseldorf,
think of Pan
Dusseldorf,
Am Games. Dusseldorf, yes. I'm trying to think Pan Am Games. Maybe Pan
Dusseldorf.
Am Games. I want to say it was World Cup, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you enjoy that first competition? How well did you do?
I did pretty well. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think I won that one. But I wasn't very big on traveling to Europe during that time. I mean, I loved it when I got there, but I didn't like the plane ride. It was a different situation than it is now. Of course, everything's more, if you will, Americanized, if you will. So you have more stupid things to do, I guess. But I wasn't crazy about going back and forth to Europe all the time. I loved the competitions. Anytime there was a competition, I was, of course, in heaven. And I always like, I go to the track every day, even if I didn't have practice, I'd go every day because it was a way for me to kind of clear my head and pass some time away because, at that time I didn't speak any other languages, of course. So you didn't, unless you were reading a book, it wasn't very much you could do. And I read a lot of books and saw a lot of the attractions and parks and things. And but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't change anything in the world from, the way my career went, other than a few more wins here and there.
Greg?
But other than that,
Yes, yes. Well, Greg, you talking about clear your head.
mm-hmm.
You know how I worked. Whenever my work was finished, I would go down to the track and clear my head.
Uh-huh.
But guess what? I had a young child, okay? He
Uh-huh.
was about between 2 and 3.
Uh-huh.
And my wife said, Alpheus, what you need to do is you take them with you wherever you go to give her some relief.
Uh-huh.
And guess what?
What's that?
I stopped going to the track as often, and I took them all over the place, the place.
Uh-huh.
And thank God I did that, because about a year later or so, that young man got knocked down, was in a coma for 8 months, and was brain dead.
Oh, wow.
Was brain dead. And, you're talking about clear your head.
Mm-hmm.
I cleared my head with them. We would go around by where the fish and conch is, and guess what? We'd get it, and then he threw it in the water. So it was really something else. Tell us about your 3 consecutive wins and LA, 84.
World Championship wins?
Yes, World Championship wins.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, the first one was
the whole 3 of them. Yes.
The first one I thought would be the easiest, but it turned out to be the most difficult because although I had I think Willie Galt was in that race, and Arto Briggery from Helsinki was in that race. And it was in Helsinki, of course. The first one was in Helsinki, and ran pretty well the first 2 rounds. And then in the finals, I was leading the race most of the time. And I got to like the 8th hurdle, and I hit the 8th hurdle really, really hard. I thought I was going to fall and go down. But luckily, I was able to recover and finish and end up winning, not by a very big margin, of course, but I ended up winning that one. 4 years later, not like it is now, which every 2 years, 4 years later, I'm back in the same situation. I'll get an opportunity to defend my title. And at that time, we were in Rome, and I was ready for it. I think I was ready for it anyway. Bob Kersey was my coach, and he always said, when you step on the track, you're ready. I'm not going to let you compete unless you're ready to compete. So I knew I was ready to run.
Excuse me, who was your coach again?
Bob Kersey was my coach. Once I got out of UCLA, Bob Kersey Kersey became my coach. And then in Rome, I think Colin Jackson was my competition, I think, in Rome, if I'm not mistaken. He was a youngster at that time. He's a young guy coming up. Yes. But he was very good at that time. And I think I ended up winning that one. I can't remember the time, and then in 91, it was in Tokyo. And I had Jack Pierce, my teammate, and also not Colin, but Tony Jarrett. Tony Jarrett and I was going back and forth. We had a little rivalry going on during that year because he was running really well that year. He was, matter of fact, he was one of the ones picked to win. It was between myself, him, and and oh gosh, Jack Pierce at that time, and it was a close race. Jack
Was
and I.
Tony?
Excuse me.
No, you go ahead.
Jack Pierce and I ended up almost in a dead heat, and they ended up. I guess they had the photo finish or whatever. They checked the flag and saw that I had won by whatever. I mean, very very close race, but great competitions. I love those guys to this day. I just talked to actually one of my guys I ran against who beat me in the Olympic Games, Roger Kingdom, just last week, and I've talked to Tony Dees a couple weeks ago. So we keep in touch with some of these guys. I keep in touch with these guys. They call me and check on me and check on my health and everything and make sure I'm doing okay. We're like a big family now. So
how do I put it? When did you officially stop competition?
Officially, I stopped, I think, in 93, I want to say. And I stopped because I tore my, I was having Achilles tendon problem. And it was so bad. Matter of fact, I think it was before the World Championships, the Outdoor World Championships, I think it was. I was going to try to compete and go to the World Championships or make the team to go to the World Championships. And I just couldn't get through training. So I just decided, enough is enough. Achilles was really bad. It was really sore. And the doctor told me, he said, if you keep pushing yourself, you're going to just end up ripping it, tearing it. And so I decided at that time it had been enough. I had enough, track. I hadn't had enough of track and field, but it was just time for me to go on because of the injuries. So I decided to move ahead. And I've had plenty of injuries over the years, including 2 broken arms.
That was the 93 World Championships in Stuttgart, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yeah. I was trying to make that team and did not make it. I won in 91. I won indoor and outdoor world championships. And then 93, I wanted to try for the outdoor world championships. And that's when I had the Achilles issues.
Just think a little bit now.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you say are the top 5 high hurdlers for men now?
Of all time, then and now?
For all time.
Oh gosh. Well, one you have to. I know I'm doing it right now, saying it right now because he just broke the world record. You got to put Grant Holloway in that picture.
Yes.
I think for me, and I'm going to probably pick guys, and nothing against the guys that I don't pick, but for me, I would have to say Ronaldo, of course, number 1. Colin Jackson. Oh gosh, I had to put Aries Merritt in there because he broke the world record. Tony Lee. I'm trying to think the guys that ran for a number of years, and that's what I kind of look at as well. Guys. Well,
what about?
Go ahead.
What about the Cuban? I guess he didn't last long enough.
Well, you had Robles, you had, oh my gosh, Castañas, who I love to death. Alejandro Castañas was one of my favorites.
Castañas, yes.
Yes, he was one of my
favorites. Let me ask you this, Greg. Were you at the meet? I think it was a Coca-Cola Pepsi meet in LA when the Cubans went there for the very first time and Castañas was there.
As a matter of fact, I took Castañas around. I had a Corvette at that time, and he and I went right around in the Corvette, and he loved it. Yep. I was there, competing against him there. Yep.
That is good.
Great guy.
Now, my question now is, the cities that you've been, the countries that you've been, where would you now travel? Other than the Bahamas now, where would you go? Tell us what you enjoyed in those cities, what made it different, and if a World Championships would be held, where do you want that World Championships to be held?
Well, let me start by saying there's 2 places I wish I had an opportunity to compete, and I never got the opportunity to compete, was the Bahamas as well as Jamaica. I think it would have been wonderful to compete in those types of atmospheres with the crowds that know track and field and love track and field. It would have been really nice to compete in front of the fans there in person. My favorite place probably, I'll probably have to say Zurich, mainly because of the level of competition and the knowledge of the people there. But I also like Germany. I loved Italy. The Rome meat, Brussels. I loved the Berlin meet was absolutely wonderful. Did you get to run in the Olympic Stadium? The 1936 Olympic Stadium was really wonderful. There's no place that I've been that I can honestly say I would never go back to. Russia was a little difficult only because of the flight there. We flew on the plane Aeroflot, which is
Airflow.
not the same flight, not the same planes they have nowadays. That's for sure.
No.
But I mean, I loved everywhere I went. I mean, it was an opportunity for me to get to see a part of the world that I, hadn't been for track and field. I would have never seen. I wish we did have more competitions, in the island areas, because I just love the islands. I just, just someplace, you can. There's other things you can do once you get done with track and field, because I love the other countries and got a chance to see a lot. You visit the Vatican and things of that nature, all across the world. I never got a chance to compete in Dubai, which I wish I had got a chance to do that. I did compete in Doha once, but I'm Dubai. But I don't. There's no place that I can say that I did not like. I just wish I had the opportunity to compete, and in the African nation as well. I never got a chance to compete there either.
Well, let me ask you this question. Very significant. Tell us about your health challenges in the past and where you are now. Greg, you look like a completely different person, and I love it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a journey, including my time doing track and field. Like I said, I broke my arm twice. I had knee surgery. I had foot surgery. I had Achilles surgery. So it's been a long career. But you know what? I'm a fighter. You're hurdler, we fall and we get back up. We have to jump over obstacles all the time. My latest battle, of course, has been I was about 6 years ago now diagnosed with a disease called amyloidosis, which I had never heard anything about, had no idea what it was. And I looked on the internet, and the very first thing I read on the internet stated that amyloidosis was a death sentence. That's the exact words that I read. And I literally just panicked. So I got on the phone, I got on in doing some more research and found the Amyloidosis Consortium. And I found a number for a young lady. And I called her, not knowing whether or not this woman would pick up the phone or not, but she picked up the phone, and she pretty much calmed me down and told me, no, it's not a death sentence. And she went on to explain to me that she had amyloidosis herself and had it at that time, maybe 19 years or 20 years before. And, but she got treated in England. But anyway, she calmed me down and told me no. And so finally, that was the first time I, realized what it was. And then the doctors, for 2.5 years, about a year and a half, maybe, I went through to different doctors. They had no idea what it was. And at that time, I didn't know what it was at that time. But then when the doctors finally realized, after seeing 5 cardiologists, after them realizing, one of the doctors called me and said, I think I know what you have. And he said, you have a form of multiple myeloma, which I'm like, what is that? So I looked it up on the internet, and then he had me go see another specialist, and he determined that it was amyloidosis. And from that point on, it's an ailment that attacks your major organs. It can be your kidneys, your heart, your lungs, anything that any of your major organs. And what it does is causes them to become weak and stiff, so that they don't function 100%. And mine just so happened to attack my heart, and caused it to, the blood would flow into the heart just fine, but the heart could not pump the blood back into my body fast enough to keep my body working normally. So I started having shortness of breath, and I was getting weak. I was working out 5 days a week. I was, going 3 days in the gym, two days on the road running. And it seemed like the more I lifted, the weaker I got. I'm like, what's going on here? It got to the point where I'd go lift, from lifting 200 pounds to me lifting 100 pounds in like 2 or 3 days. And I didn't think much of it at first, but then I got home one day and I went to run up the stairs, which is only 16 stairs in the house. And I got to the top of the stairs and I literally had to sit down and catch my breath. I was completely out of breath. And at that point I said, something's got to be wrong. So anyway, I started going to the doctors, and they diagnosed me eventually with amyloidosis. And since then I've had, initially I had a bone marrow transplant, which went very, very well. I I was in the hospital for I got about a month, I guess, and got out and started working my way back up. It was fine, was in remission for 2 years. And then I felt things coming back again. So they tested me again and it had come back because there's no cure for it. So it could possibly come back. So it came back and I went through chemotherapy for 6 months, weekly, once a week for 16 weeks, 4 months, for 16 weeks. And that kind of worked pretty well. I was fine for about another year and a half, maybe about a year and a half to 2 years. Got back, I lost weight, had gone down all the way to 100. I was at 225. I went down to 183. So I lost a lot of weight, lost all the muscle I had from lifting weights and working out and stuff. And then I was in remission again. But then in 2019, in November, well, actually January, I went to Boston University, where they did a full workup of me for 3 days, and pretty much the final word was that you need a heart transplant. And so they sent all the results to my doctors here in St. Louis, and for whatever reason, it took a while for them to get to that point where they felt like I needed that transplant. And so about a year went by, and I finally just called and I said, I got to get something done, because this was in November. I was scheduled to go to California like I normally do for Christmas. And I went into the hospital and I talked to a lady, and she said, you need to come on in. And I was like, well, I got a trip to California. I want to see my grandbaby. I want to do things like that, which I did every year. So she's like, well, that's on you. But she proceeded to tell me, but once you check into this hospital, you cannot check out until this procedure is done. So I was like, okay, I'm going to California, then I'll come back. So when I got back from California, I was feeling pretty bad. And then Tuesday, I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, I called. And as soon as I actually heard my voice, she said, you ready? I said, yes, I'm ready to come in. And that was on Wednesday evening. I think I checked into the hospital. No, Thursday evening. I checked into the hospital Thursday evening. And then Friday night around midnight, the surgeon came into my room, and he woke me up about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was a little upset, actually, because I was finally getting some sleep, and he woke me up. So I was a little pissed off. But anyway, he woke me up, and he said, we found the perfect heart for you, is what he said to me. And I just looked at him. I just kind of looked up at him and got real emotional. And I pretty much just started to cry. And when he said that, because I was, for one, I was very happy for myself, of course. I was sad for the reason, because someone had to lose their life in order for me to keep mine. So I was really sad for that family, of course, at that time. And then he proceeded to tell me, well, we were going to do it tomorrow morning, which would have been Saturday morning. And he said, we can't do that because there's such a bad storm in South Dakota where the heart's coming from. The snow was so bad, they didn't want to risk the heart being, something happening to the heart. So we're going to do it for Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, about 6 o'clock, they knock on my door and come in and put me on the gurney. And next thing I know, I'm in the hospital. I mean, I'm in the surgery, in the operating room, and until you start counting backwards from 10 or from 100, and I think I got to about 95, and I was knocked out. So, but I remember him telling me that he was going to, once they finished the operation, they were going to keep my chest open for a few hours just to make sure everything is fine before they close it up. So I was like, okay. And then he said, we're going to probably keep you asleep for 48 hours, just to make sure, everything is fine. You don't want you stressing anything or like that. So when I came out of anesthesia, my son was there. 2 of my good friends were there. Actually, about 6 people were there in the room, in the recovery room. And I looked up at my son. I'm like, it's Wednesday already? No, I said, it's Tuesday. No, I said, it's Wednesday already? He said, no. He said, it's Sunday. I said, what do you mean it's Sunday? He said, the operation went so well, Dad, they decided to go ahead and close your chest up and wake you up. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, this is 6 hours later. It only took 6 hours. And, but anyway, yeah, it went really well. I had a great medical team, still do. They take care of me. I am going through remission. I mean, through rejection a little bit right now. Although they say the heart is beating perfectly well, pretty much as it's supposed to. It's still showing a little bit of stiffness from the rejection, though. So again, I'm having a process of having to go through trying to get the blood circulating the proper way again. So they're working it out. They're figuring it out. Right now, I get a monthly infusion, which I'll get this coming Monday. And it's supposed to help with that recovery, trying to clear out the antibodies that have caused or is causing the rejection.
So Greg, this is Heart Month. February is Heart Month.
Yes.
And I have a cousin who is involved with that, raising funds and letting people know challenges with heart. I have a client forever and ever. And I'd asked her to come to my office. So she would take the time to walk. That's what she did. And she was by her home and her heart failed. So you never know. The other thing is that somebody in my fraternity, his wife needed a heart. And she got that on, I think it was New Year's Eve. And she was not supposed to leave the United States for about 2 or 3 years. Anyhow, she is working and doing well. And as I say, it is really something else. So with that in mind, you don't do that. We have an organization called the Sir Victor Sassoon Foundation, and they pour money into it because you don't go to the hospital like I did without money.
Right.
So tell me the financial challenges.
Well, it's been tough. At times. As a matter of fact, every time my meds probably add up to probably about almost $2,500 a month, almost. But the hospital has worked with me. Pre-COVID, we had come to a decision that they were going to help me with some of the costs if I would help them, spread the word about amyloidosis and the heart, working with the Heart Foundation, things of that nature. But it's still a challenge. I don't worry about it as much. It's still a challenge. There are bills that I have to take care of. But again, I'm a fighter. I don't worry about it. I move on and do what I have to do.
Well, finally, Greg, tell us about your family. Nobody survives without a family.
No, as you can see in some of the pictures you were showing, my son was there from, all 3 of my boys wanted to be there. But I tell them, they know me. I'm very independent. I'm a fighter. I don't like to interrupt people's lives. My oldest son, he's married, got a daughter that's in school and living in California. He wanted to come out. I said, nope, stay with your family. Bryce will be here. My other son that was there with me, that's in the photos that you showed, lives in Kansas City, which is only about 3 hours from here. So he can come back and forth. And at that time, he could work remote. His boss was very, very nice and kind and allowed him to do whatever he needed to do to come here and take care of his dad. And so he was here throughout the whole thing. My youngest son was in school. He's in college. And I didn't want to, interrupt his college, career. So I told him again, just stay there. If anything, Bryce will call you guys and keep you updated, whatever. And Bryce is my middle son, matter of fact. But great kids. They're all in the engineering world, if you will. Love them to death. They've been, great boys all their lives. I've never had any issues with any of them at any time. My friends here, my coworkers at the school where I work at a private institution here. From the head of the school all the way down were on my side and were there at the hospital and sent well wishes. People from the track world have been phenomenal, including yourself. The kind of love I get and support I get still to this day. Like I say, Tony Campbell, Tony Dees, Roger Keane will call and find out Ronaldo, sends me messages all the time. Artur Brigery from Finland all the time, always checking on me, see how I'm doing. So I get a lot of support from around the world, and I just truly am grateful that I have those connections and those friends from around the world. Because it has helped a great deal. Because there's been times when you just want to, sometimes you just, I run hurdles. I'm used to getting over things, of course. I see it's just an obstacle, but it's a different type of obstacle. I can't control this one. I can control those hurdles and how I get over those. This hurdle I had no control over. I can only, do what the doctors tell me, and even then, sometimes it doesn't work out the way it's supposed to. And I get frustrated because like I told them, I said, when my coach used to tell me, do your arm this way, or do this, do that. I do it and it works. I do everything you guys tell me, and it doesn't work. I get frustrated. So as long as I keep my frustrations down, then I'm better. But I'm very impatient when it comes to me being active, because I love being active. I've slowed down a lot as far as what I do as far as activity. I still work out. I go to weight room. I want to do more cardio, but I've fallen in love with golf now. So I play. I hit golf almost every day when the weather permits.
Well, something that is very significant that I've found.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people sending up praise to the Lord for things that I've gone through, mm-hmm. and things that my sister and other family have gone through. So mm-hmm. I believe in that so much.
Yes.
If you take care of the good Lord takes care of you in his time now, in his time.
Yes.
So I lift up the prayers all over the world for you. And thank you ever so much for being on this show, my brother, because you are truly a track and field legend.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you. I love you. You've always been very kind to me. I still got to get my trip down there. I'm not giving up yet now. Hopefully this summer, COVID, allowing it. But my goal is to come down and hang out for a little while and just spend some time and enjoy the weather and the wonderful island.
Thank you ever so much.
You're welcome.